Good morning students. Welcome back to the fourth and the last session of the chapter where there is a wheel written by P. Sainath. Yes, in our previous class we learnt about Sheila Rani Chunkat, a former district collector of Pudukottai district, a lady behind the mastermind. She introduced a new literacy drive called Arivoli Iyakkam in order to spread education among the rural women in Pudukottai district. It was a huge success. So this Arivoli Iyakkam started in the year 1991. When she introduced this new literacy movement or a drive, she realized that in order to spread education in the interior parts of the villages, women had to be mobile. So that's the reason she links literacy with mobility. She adds cycling as a part of literacy movement or a literacy drive. After International Day, that is 8th March 1992, the district was never the same. 1500 rural women, they took part in this rally and they stunned the inhabitants of those districts. When these women were learning or when these women were riding bicycles, there were so many men who opposed this. But there were few men who also supported. One such person is Muthu Bhaskaran. So this Muthu Bhaskaran is a Arivoli male activist. So he composed a cycling song which later became their anthem. After that, we also learnt about a young enthusiast who is just 22 years old who was teaching other co-workers or other women to ride cycling, that is Manormani. When 70,000 women, they took part in this public exhibition cum contest, UNICEF was impressed by the women's participation and sanctioned 50 mopeds for Arivoli activists. So till here we learnt. So that was the effect of linking bicycling with literacy. So in today's class, let us learn about some of the economic implications as well as postscript of the chapter. Open page number 122. Cycling has had a very definite economic implication. It boosts income. Some of the women here sell agricultural or other produce within a group of villages. For them, the bicycle cuts down on time wasted in waiting for buses. This is crucial in poorly connected routes. P. Sainath, he also reports that when these women learned cycling, it not only gave them a sense of independence, freedom and mobility, it also made them empowered economically. So these women were economically empowered. We'll see how these women were economically empowered. The first one, it boosts income. It boosts their family income. A large section of these women were small producers. These women used to go to different villages in order to sell their agricultural or other produces. So in order to reach these villages, they were dependent on the buses. Since they have learned cycling, so whatever time they were wasting for the bus, now that time they could use efficiently. So they could cover more places. In return, their income or their family income increased. Secondly, it gives you much more time to focus on selling your produce. Here, most of these women, they used to waste their time waiting for the bus. So instead of waiting for the buses, now they can go to different places in order to sell their crops. Now they can fully focus or they can fully concentrate on selling their crops rather than the departure or arrival time of the buses. Thirdly, it enlarges the area you can hope to cover. So as I've told you, since cycle is their own vehicle, now they don't need to wait for anybody else. They can cover as many places as they want, or maybe till all their produces are sold. Since Cycle is their own vehicle. Now they no need to wait for anyone, or they no need to wait for any public transportation. Instead, they can take as much time as they want to sell their produce. Lastly, it can increase your leisure time should you choose. So not only that, their leisure also increased because they are not dependent on anyone or any public transportation. They can finish their work and they can come back early and they can enjoy their leisure time. Small producers who used to wait for buses were often dependent on fathers, brothers, husbands or sons to even reach the bus stop. They could cover only a limited number of villages to sell their produce. Some walked. Those who cannot afford bicycles still do. So forget about selling their produce. Even to reach stand, these women, they used to depend on these men of their family. They had to depend either on their husbands or brother or father or son. So one or the other male member of their family had to accompany them till they reach bus stand. So that was the condition. But now, since they have learned cycling, they no need to wait for anybody to take them till the bus stand. They can take their own time in order to go and cover as many places as they want. The number of villages which they were covering earlier increased after they learned this cycling. And there are so many women, they still walk, who couldn't afford in order to buy their own cycles. They'll carry their produces. They will still walk for a long distances in order to sell their produces. These women had to rush back early to tend to the children and perform other chores like fetching water. Those who have bicycles now combine these different tasks with nonchalance, which means you can even along some remote road see a young mother, child on the bar, produce on the carrier. She could be carrying 2, perhaps even 3 pots of water hung across the back and cycling towards work or home. Earlier, these women used to be burdened with economically as well as social or family obligations. Though they go out in order to work, they had to come back within a fixed time in order to tend to their children or to fetch water from remote places. Regardless of whether a woman is in employment outside the home or not, but the domestic work is considered to be a woman's area or sphere. Whether they go out to work or not, but they had to come back and they had to do household chores like fetching water, looking after their children, cooking, etc. They had to do regardless of whether they go out or not, because this domestic work is unpaid. Since the domestic work is unpaid, it is considered to be not important. So they considered only paid work to be important, whereas household work is considered to be not important as they don't get any extra income or earnings. Once these women became mobile and independent, now as a result, many young women, they used to carry their children on the bar in the front, and also they can carry their produces on the carrier. And not just that, even sometimes they were carrying 2 or 3 pots of water hung across the back of their cycles. It shows that after learning a cycle, these women became independent or self-dependent, and also it gave them confidence. Moreover, the ability to ride cycle gave them self-respect. That is the most important thing. Yet, it would be very wrong to emphasize the economic aspect over all else. The sense of self-respect it brings is vital. Of course, it is not economic, said Fatima, giving me a look that made me feel rather stupid. What money do I make from cycling? I lose money. I can't afford a bicycle, but I hire one every evening just to feel that goodness, that independence. So most of the people, when they do something, first they will look for a profit, right? That is a common tendency of a human being. Likewise, when P. Sainath was writing a report on this bicycling, even he also wanted to write about a profit or the financial benefits these women were getting. It happened to see when he interviewed Fatima, a secondary school teacher, when he interviewed her, whatever ideas or thought about cycling he had, that changed. The perspective which he had towards cycling. So whereas P. Sainath, he wanted to note or he wanted to make a note of financial benefits. But Fatima proved him wrong, saying that there are so many other benefits rather than looking into only financial benefits. And she says that is not important or that is not good to see or to look into more economical aspects than the other aspects. So for these women, more than financial benefits or profit, the self-respect which that cycle gave, that is very important than any other benefits they got from this cycling. Learning to ride a bicycle gave these women a sense of self-respect. That was very important, that was vital, that is very important than the other benefits which they were getting. Of course, yes, they were benefited economically, financially they were benefited, but whatever self-respect they were getting, that is more important than this financial benefit. When Fatima said this P. Sainath, he felt stupid. He felt stupid of himself. And further, she also continues, Fatima, as we already know, she is a secondary school teacher. She was standing on her leg financially. She was financially stable. She was working as a teacher and she was earning money. But learning to ride cycle will not benefit her in any ways. Instead, she will lose her money. That is, since she is unable to buy her own cycle, she had to depend on the other option, that is hiring cycle. Every day, every evening, she was hiring bicycle. In fact, she was losing money while hiring a bicycle. But though she loses her money, though there is no financial benefit, still she hire bicycle losing her money because the feeling of independence that she was getting while riding bicycle was much more important than mere money. So that's why she says for her riding bicycle is much more important. Not only for her, there are so many other women. So for them, more than other profits or benefits, for them the sense of the self-respect which they got while riding bicycle, that plays more important role than the other benefits they were getting from riding these bicycles. Never before reaching Pudukottai had I seen this humble vehicle in that light. The bicycle as a metaphor for freedom. Till he reached Pudukottai, he thought cycle as a humble vehicle. So humble means poor, the lowest in the rank. P. Sainath, he calls cycle as a humble vehicle because it is the most common and ubiquitous vehicle. Ubiquitous in the sense found everywhere. Since it is commonly practiced and found everywhere, even in the most remote places, he call it as a humble vehicle because it is common man's vehicle. So till he reached Pudukottai, he thought cycle as a humble vehicle. But after reaching Pudukottai, whatever perspective he had towards cycling changed completely. Later, he also started to realize the cycling has a other dimension as well. That dimension is a metaphor for freedom. which is a common practice and a humble vehicle for us, can bring a drastic changes in the lives of so many rural women. So even now, whenever he sees cycle, he will not think as just as a humble vehicle. Rather, he will see as a vehicle which can bring a revolutionary changes among the lives of so many women. It is difficult for people to see how big this is for rural women, said Kannamal. It's a Himalayan achievement, like flying an aeroplane for them. People may laugh, only the women know how important it is. We might wonder or we might think riding to bicycling is not a great achievement. There is no great deal in that. But for those women in Pudukkottai district, it is a great Himalayan achievement. So Kannamal, you remember, a cycling movement, Arivoli Central Coordinator, Kannamal, she says, it is like a great achievement for these women. Whenever they ride bicycles, they feel or they have that happiness as if they are flying an aeroplane. So that is the feeling which gives for these rural women whenever they are riding bicycles. So whenever we hear that cycling has brought drastic changes, people might laugh, we might laugh, but that is felt only by those women. Only those women know how important it is, because that changed their life drastically. So like this, a mere humble vehicle like cycling can bring drastic changes in the lives of so many rural women. So these women in Pudukkottai, they have set an example for not only for other women in the district, to the entire world. They have set an example that this mere vehicle can also bring changes in the lives of women. Postscript. When I returned to Pudukkottai in April 1995, the craze was still on, but a large number of women were unable to afford bicycles. Each now costs around rupees 1,400, and a new generation was coming up that was too young to gain from the first round. But Pudukkottai remains unique among Indian districts for the stunning proportion of women who have taken to bicycling and the enthusiasm for gaining the skill among the rest. He concludes his essay by visiting Pudukkottai for the second time again in the year 1995 and conducts the same survey which he did in the year 1992. So when he conducts this survey for the second time, cycling was still had an positive impact on many rural women. This cycling still continues to be positive craze among the rural women in Pudukkottai district. So we are in an era where science and technology is improving every day. Every day we are witnessing one or the two new inventions. Every day there are one or the other inventions are coming up. But in Pudukkottai district, still whatever craze they had for cycling was the same. They still had craze for cycling. So within a span of 3 years, whatever cycle price they had 3 years before, that is 1,200, that increased for 1,400, which means there was a rise of 200 rupees over the past 3 years. So in 1995, these women were not that keen on learning bicycling because this cycling or riding to bicycle had become very common there. Though there is no much craze remained in the new generation of Pudukkottai district, still Pudukkottai district will remain unique. And as I have told you, they have set an example. They have set an example to many other women in India. I just don't want to restrict myself saying only India, but they have also reached to the entire world. So this is the power of bicycling. So we never imagined that cycling would bring so many changes, such a drastic change. But cycling brought a drastic change in the lives of so many rural women in Pudukkottai district. For them, it is not just a humble vehicle, but it is something great for them. Learning to ride bicycle is a great achievement. Yes, we have come to an end of the session. I have given you a set of questions. Please answer those questions and send it in a WhatsApp group. Thank you.